So today I'm looking at IXL P6, which is the composition of linear and quadratic functions. It's find a value. And I don't know where you're at and who's teaching you. It's been pretty common, at least when I grew up. Of course, I'm older than most of y'all, believe it or not. When I was a kid, we didn't use this notation. What you're seeing here was written f of g of 5. And I've noticed for some reason that they're getting away from that notation. I'm not sure why they're getting away from that notation. But hopefully you understand some basic compositions. We work our way out. So since they're asking f composed of g composed of 5, I'm going to find g of 5 first. G of 5 happens when you let x be 5 in g of x. So it's 6 times 5, which is 30. And now that I know what this is, now that I actually legit know g of 5 is 30, I get to use a substitution property. So the new goal is now to find f of 30. And f of 30 will be a 30 squared plus a 3. You know, if you got a calculator at home, push the buttons or whatever. But this is going to be 903. So it's not that hard to plug in a number. I know it bugs the crap out of some kids, but it's not that hard. Let's jump up a level, see if they get any more difficult. I don't expect they will. It's just plug in a number and go with it. This is Q composed of R composed of 4. Again, I like writing things like this. I guess probably because it's how I was taught, but it also seems more natural to me. Work your way outside. R of 4 is a 4 squared plus a 6 times a 4, which ought to be 40 if my brain is working right this morning. 4 squared, 16, 24, that's 40. So now that I know that R sub 4, or R composed of 4 is a 40, I get to find Q of 40, which is simply, if you look at your function there, going to be 40 plus 5, which is 45. So I don't think this one's going to get too difficult. So here's level 3, f made of g made of 1. It hasn't gotten any more difficult. It's really not. And again, I personally like that notation because I work my way out. It just makes more sense. So the first thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to find g sub 1. That's 3 times a 1 minus a 6. I guess this is why it's more difficult, because we have negative numbers, right? That just bugs living daylights out of kids. But I know that g sub 1 is negative 3, so now the goal is to replace g sub 1 with a negative 3 and discover what f composed of negative 3 is. It's a negative 3 all squared, which is going to be positive 9. Level 4, they made the last equation a little more difficult. That's all they did. F composed of g composed of negative 5. All right, so first task here is to find g sub negative 5. It's a negative 2 times a negative 5 squared minus 6 times a negative 5 minus a 5. Not a hard thing to figure out. If you got to push buttons in the calculator, you can. I mean, I'll pull mine up. It's a good time to go over the storage feature. Take a negative 5, store it to x. And the original equation was negative 2x to the second minus 6x minus 5. At least that's what I substituted into, right? And it spit back a negative 25. So now, using the substitution property, I find f composed of a negative 25. And that will be a negative 25 that is squared. Now, I know a lot of kids don't have these memorized. Some of my kids do, not all of them. When you're squaring a negative, it's going to be positive. You know, I tell my kids all the time, drop it, but not everybody listens to the teacher, now do you? But, you know, I wrote it like that, so I better include that in a calculator, because it's 625. Now, what a lot of kids do is they just don't even worry about the parentheses, and they'll never really write that down, even though they know that a negative squared is positive. But the correct answer is at 625. So make sure you know how to use your technology if you're relying on technology. And that is IXL P6. Not a bad lesson. shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. It really should not.